got the light off.
Surveillance cameras caught Jim Jones kicking in a locked Bronx studio door, and less than 24 hours later, 50 Cent posted the footage, a lease termination notice, and claimed he now owns the building. But the part nobody expected was Jim's response to the 50s trolling. The footage that started everything. February 20th, 2026, 50 Cent posted surveillance footage to Instagram. The clip was timestamped February 19th, the day before. It showed a man in a hallway, repeatedly kicking a locked door, striking it with his foot and his body, until it finally opened. That man was Jim Jones.
He got the light off.
The caption 50 Cent put on that first post made the message clear before anyone even watched the video. The building in the video is the IFC Factory, short for Intellectual Factory, of content located in the Bronx. It is the home base of the podcast Let's Rap About It, co-hosted by Jim Jones, Fabulous, Dave East, and Mayo. This is where they record, film, and broadcast. It is not just a rental space for Jones and the crew. This building is the operation. 50 Cent did not post one angle. He posted multiple. The footage came from different security cameras covering the same hallway. He attached a lease termination notice addressed to Joseph Jones, Jim Jones's legal name, showing that tenancy at the premises had been terminated. A 15-day default notice, dated around January 5, 2026, was referenced as having expired on January 22nd. So, by February 19th, the night Jones was caught on camera kicking through that door, the lease had already been dead for nearly a month. Jones's response to the initial footage came fast. He did not deny it. He did not release a statement. He posted a video of himself in the same outfit from the surveillance footage, the same dark clothes, the same boots, chopping wood, with karate strikes while the last dragon played on a big screen in the background. That caption became the phrase of the moment. Kung Fu Jim is what they call him. Memes spread within the hour. The clip racked up millions of views across Instagram, YouTube, and X before the day was over. But to understand why this moment landed the way it did, why it felt like a punchline at the end of a joke that had been building for months, you have to go back to where it started. Because this was not a random confrontation. The footage did not drop out of nowhere. The conflict between 50 Cent and the Let's Rap About It crew traces back to late 2025 when the podcast made a comment about 50 Cent's work and 50 Cent decided he was not going to let it go. That comment, calling 50 Cent's Netflix documentary a mockumentary, was the match. Everything else, the leaked audio, the rent allegations, the building purchase, the surveillance footage, that was the fire. And by February 20th, 2026, it was burning in front of the entire internet. The sequence of events on that one day alone tells the whole story of what this beef had become. First came the surveillance clips, then came the lease notice. Then hours later, 50 Cent posted a photo with a man identified as Sam, described as the building's owner, and claimed partial ownership of the property itself. Sam is my partner. Own the joint. Now you're going to fix every door you kick, or I'm going to kick you, Jimmy. By Monday, you're destroying my property. In one day, 50 Cent had gone from posting embarrassing footage to claiming he was Jones's landlord. Jim Jones responded to that by going on his Instagram story and writing, "Give me a second. I'm trying to figure out what I need to promo while I got the spotlight." Again, two men, same footage, completely different reactions. That contrast is what made this story go viral. And it is what we are going to break down piece by piece, starting from the very beginning. The mockumentary comment. To understand the door-kicking footage, you have to understand what came before it. And the timeline stretches back further than most people following the February 2026 posts realized. It started with a Netflix documentary. In late 2025, 50 Cent released a documentary on Netflix. Since 50 Cent produced it, he promoted it heavily. During an episode of Let's Rap About It, Jim Jones and his co-hosts watched it and then talked about it on. They called it a mockumentary. The word mockumentary is specific. It does not just mean bad. It implies that what you are watching is not real journalism, that it is performance dressed up as investigation, that the whole thing is a joke. 50 Cent heard it and he did not respond by releasing a diss track or scheduling a press run. He responded the way 50 Cent responds to almost everything, by digging into the business. He began posting leaked audio, purportedly from a conversation with the IFC Factos building owner Sam, in which Sam discussed how much back rent the Let's Rap About It crew owed. The figures mentioned ranged from $80,000 to $180,000, with some early posts referencing numbers as high as $250,000. The message 50 Cent was sending was deliberate and calculated. You want to question my work? Let's talk about your bills. Let's talk about whether you can actually afford the room you are sitting in when you make those comments. The financial allegations became the weapon, and 50 Cent swung it consistently. One point, he noted that Jones had reportedly wired approximately $200,000 to address part of the arrears, and responded to that information by commenting sarcastically that Jones may turn out to be a good tenant after all. While offering to help collect more, he joked about buying the building outright to gain leverage over the crew. He posted memes. He tagged Jones repeatedly. This went on for months. In January 2026, fellow Dipset member Cameron joined in, posting memes about the studio allegedly lacking heat during cold weather. 50 Cent amplified those posts. The narrative kept building. Picture of a crew falling behind on their obligations while continuing to podcast from a space they allegedly could no longer afford. Jones pushed back during this period. He shared a video tour of an expanding facility, trying to reframe the story as growth rather than struggle. But the core issue, the rent, the lease, the building, did not go away. And every time Jones or the podcast crew addressed it, the conversation stayed alive. What is important to understand about this period is what it tells us about 50 Cent's strategy. He did not approach this as a rap beef. He did not challenge Jones to aver or record a diss track. He turned it into a landlord-tenant story, and more specifically into a story about accountability. Every post was designed to make one point: you criticized my work while you were not paying your rent. That framing matters because it put Jones in a difficult position. If he responded emotionally, he played into the narrative. If he ignored it, 50 kept posting. There was no clean exit, only escalation or deflection. And then February 19th happened. At some point that night, surveillance cameras at the IFC factory captured Jim Jones in a hallway. The lease had expired weeks earlier. The door was locked, and rather than wait, Jones reportedly kicked and struck the door repeatedly until it opened. Whatever his reasoning, whether he had belongings inside, equipment to retrieve, a recording scheduled, the footage existed, and 50 Cent, who had been building toward this moment for months, obtained it the next day. The lease termination notice that 50 Cent posted alongside the footage referenced a 15-day default notice from around January 5, 2026, with the cure period expiring January 22nd. That means by February 19th, the tenny had been legally terminated for nearly 4 weeks. The lockout, if that is what it was not sudden. It was the end of a process that had been moving toward this conclusion since at least the previous October. When 50 Cent posted those clips on February 20th, he was not just dropping embarrassing footage. He was closing a chapter in a story he had been writing out loud for months. Every post, every leaked audio clip, every Cameron meme, it had all been building to this image. Jim Jones in a hallway, kicking through a door at a studio he could no longer legally enter. The question is, what happened next? And what does it tell us about who actually came out ahead? 50 Cent's move. The footage itself was damaging enough, But 50 Cent did not stop there. Within hours of posting the surveillance clips on February 20th, he escalated. He uploaded a second wave of content, this time not just evidence of what Jones had done, but a declaration of where 50 himself now stood in the entire situation. He posted a photo, standing alongside the building's owner, identified as Sam, and wrote, "Sam is my partner. I own the joint. Now you're going to fix every door you kick, or I'm going to kick you, Jimmy. By Monday, you're destroying my property." Let that land for a moment. 50 Cent had gone from posting footage of his rivals' embarrassing lockout to announcing publicly on Instagram that he was now a partial owner of the building where that lockout occurred. In the span of one afternoon, the narrative had shifted from Jim Jones was caught on camera to Jim Jones's new landlord is 50 Cent. The construction of this move was precise. Reports indicate the podcast crew had owed substantial back rent. Estimates range from $80,000 to $180,000 and had been in discussions with the landlord since at least October 2025. 50 Cent had been flagging this situation for months, joking about buying the building, and now he was claiming he had actually done it, or at least entered some form of partnership with the man who owned it. Whether or not the ownership claim was legally formal, and as of February 25, 2026, no verified deeds or contracts were publicly confirmed. The effect was immediate and total. It reframed the entire beef. This was no longer just two rappers exchanging jabs on social media. This was a business play. 50 Cent had inserted himself into the property relationship, and now every time Jones tried to access that studio, he was walking into 50 Cent's house. The ultimatum, fix every door by Monday, added a timeline to the pressure. It gave the story a clock. Audiences now had a date to watch for. Would Jones comply? Would he respond? Would 50 follow through? It also did something else. It put Jones in the position of a tenant receiving instructions from his tormentor. The optics were the whole point. 50 Cent is exceptionally skilled at manufacturing public images that stick, and Jim Jones has to answer to 50 Cent's business partner for property damage is an image that travels. 50 Cent has a well-documented history of using public exposure and business maneuvers against rivals. This was not impulsive. The pattern: collect receipts, post strategically, insert business leverage, issue a public deadline is the same pattern he has used in other conflicts. What made this instance distinct is that the receipts were literal surveillance footage. The business leverage was literal co-ownership, and the public deadline was attached to physical property damage. There is also the matter of the caption on the original post. "Damn, bro. This wouldn't happen if we was friends. Want to be friends? Don't know. Let's rap about it." Oh. That caption uses the podcast's own name as the punchline. It is not angry. It is not threatening. At least not on the surface. It reads as casual, almost playful, which is exactly what makes it land so hard. The LOL at the end signals that 50 Cent is not stressed. He is entertained, and that confidence, projected so publicly, is itself part of the power play. Hip-hop media outlets and personalities such as academics covered the story extensively, with some framing it as peak petty behavior and others noting the serious business implications of lease terminations and property damage. The clips were reposted across YouTube channels and Instagram accounts, reaching millions of combined views within hours. Sensational headlines appeared, including claims Jones faced jail time for breaking in, but no verified reports of criminal charges or lawsuits emerged by February 25, 2026. That last point is important. What 50 Cent did was not legal action. It was not a lawsuit, not a police report filed publicly, not an injunction. It was a social media campaign executed with the precision of a legal breach. Every post built on the one before it. The leaked audio established debt. The Cameron memes reinforced the financial struggle narrative. The footage provided visual confirmation of a locked-out tenant. The ownership photo flipped the power dynamic entirely, and the deadline tied it all together with urgency. What 50 Cent constructed over the course of that one day, February 20th, 2026, was a complete narrative. Here is evidence. Jones cannot pay. Here is evidence of the lease termination. Here is evidence of Jones breaking in anyway. Here is proof that I am now his landlord, and here is a deadline for him to comply. It is a media strategy as much as a beef, and it worked because the internet was watching every step. The only question left on the board was how Jim Jones was going to respond, and the answer he gave did something that 50 Cent's entire strategy was not designed to handle. It made Jones look like the one who was having fun. Kung Fu Jim and the free promo play. By the afternoon of February 20th, 2026, Jim Jones was trending. The surveillance footage was everywhere. The lease termination notice had his legal name on it. 50 Cent had just announced, in front of millions of followers, that he was now connected to the building Jones had been kicked out of. Most people would go quiet. Some would call a lawyer. Some would post an angry caption. Jones posted a kung fu video. The clip was short, somewhere between 15 and 30 seconds. Jones stood in what appeared to be the studio itself, dressed in the exact same outfit, visible in 50 Cent's surveillance footage, the same dark clothes, the same boots. He looked directly into the camera and performed exaggerated martial art strikes, rapid hand chops, kicks, theatrical wood-breaking gestures, playing on the large TV screen. Directly behind him was the 1985 martial arts comedy, The Last Dragon, starring Thyak, a beloved film in hip-hop culture famous for its blend of kung fu action and Black American identity. The choice was not random. It tied the Kung Fu Jim theme to something with cultural weight and nostalgia, turning a potentially humiliating moment into a callback that the audience could celebrate. The caption read, "Kung Fu Jim is what they call him. I need you good movie to watch on this big screen. We got cable." Oh. That second sentence did two things at once. It acknowledged the studio's amenities, the big screen, the cable, which implicitly pushed back on the narrative that the space was some struggling, financially distressed operation, and it did so without directly addressing the lease termination, the rent allegations, or 50 Cent by name. Jones was laughing. He was watching a movie. Everything was fine. Sources across hip-hop outlets noted that Jones appeared in the same outfit to make the connection to 50's surveillance footage unmistakable. He was not hiding from the clip. He was recontextualizing it. The physical action, kicking, striking, forcing a door open, became the foundation for a character, a persona, Kung Fu Jim. The post spread fast. It was reposted by accounts like Academics, The Shade Room, and XXL, racking up millions of views and comments praising the creativity. The reaction online was not Jim Jones got caught. It was Kung Fu Jim no locked doors. That shift from exposure to persona happened within the same news cycle as the original footage. But Jones was not done. Later the same day, after 50 Cent posted the photo with Sam and declared ownership, Jones went to his Instagram story. He wrote, "Give me a second. I'm trying to figure out what I need to promo while I got the spotlight again." And then, in a follow-up story, he made the framing even more explicit. Screenshots circulated widely showing text that read, "This fool promoting me. Free." He capped the series with, "Lot. IFC news coming soon, L." The strategy in those 3 slides was as clean as anything 50 Cent had put together on his side. Jones was not denying the footage. He was not contesting the lease. He was not engaging with the deadline or the ownership claim. He was reframing the entire situation, all of it, including 50 Cent's months of trolling, as a marketing campaign that he was the beneficiary of. 50 Cent did not give Jones problems. 50 Cent gave Jones a spotlight. This approach aligns with Jones's history of humorous, charismatic responses in public spats, a pattern of leaning into adversity rather than fighting it directly. But what made this instance particularly effective was the speed and the consistency of the execution. Within the same afternoon that the footage dropped, Jones had already posted a response video in matching clothing, introduced a new persona rooted in the original footage, linked the persona to a classic film, implied the studio was operational and well-equipped, reframed 50 cents trolling as free advertising, and teased upcoming content to capitalize on the attention. That is not an accident. That is someone who has thought about how to handle exactly this kind of moment. The moves appear designed to keep fans engaged and the podcast relevant without fueling further legal or physical threats from 50 Cent. By staying light, Jones avoided the trap of escalation. If he had posted something aggressive back at 50, the story becomes a beef getting worse. If he had gone quiet, 50's narrative wins by default. By going funny and going fast, he inserted himself into the story as a participant, rather than just a subject. Outlets described the response as hilarious, trolling, deflecting with style, and free promo genius, with reaction videos on YouTube emphasizing how Jones flipped the narrative from eviction drama to self-promotion. No reports of further escalation from Jones appeared by February 25, 2026, suggesting the strategy successfully kept the feud entertaining without crossing into serious territory. Whether the Kung Fu Jim persona actually saved the IFC factory, resolved the lease dispute, or changed the underlying financial situation, those are different questions entirely. The videos and the memes did not pay the rent. They did not repair the door, and 50 Cent's Monday deadline was still sitting there unrest in any formal capacity. So, what is the actual state of things? What is happening with the studio, the lease, and the real world fallout beneath all the Instagram performances? The real world fallout beneath the Kung Fu videos and the surveillance footage and the Instagram captions. There is a real dispute, one with legal dimensions, financial stakes, and consequences that do not resolve themselves through memes. The IFC factory served as the primary recording location for Let's Rap About It for Jim Jones, Fabulous, Dave East, and Mayo. This was not a side project. It was the infrastructure behind their content operation. Losing that space or having access to it disrupted would be a material blow to the podcast's production and distribution capacity. Allegations of back rent surfaced publicly in December 2025 after the podcast critiqued 50 Cent's documentary. The figures circulating $80,000 to $180,000 in arrears, with some early posts referencing as high as $250,000, were significant but also unverified in any public court filings. Jones reportedly wired approximately $200,000 at one point to address the arrears, which suggests the dispute was real and ongoing, but the exact current balance remained unclear from public records as of February 25, 2026. A lease termination notice addressed to Joseph Jones, referencing a 15-day default notice from around January 5, 2026, with the cure period expiring January 22, was posted publicly by 50 Cent alongside the surveillance footage. That document is the legal centerpiece of the situation. It indicates the formal tenancy process had been underway since at least early January, and that the opportunity to cure the default had come and gone before the February 19th footage was even recorded. But here is where New York City tenant law becomes relevant. Some circulating reports and YouTube analyses noted that the termination notice may not fully align with NYC tenant protections against self-help evictions, where landlords cannot simply lock out tenants without court involvement. In New York, even after a lease termination, a landlord generally must obtain a court order and work through the marshal's office to execute an eviction. Simply changing the locks without a court judgment can constitute an illegal lockout under state law, regardless of how behind on rent the tenant may be. Unverified accounts mention police being called to the studio to restore access after the door incident. If accurate, that would mean Jones was not a trespasser in the eyes of the responding officers. He may have retained legal rights to access the space despite the terminated lease, at least until a formal eviction through the courts had been completed. Jones has continued posting content showing access to the IFC factory, including garage entry, and promoting the space as an active multi-purpose venue for music, fashion, and broadcasting. Whether this reflects ongoing legal tenancy, a temporary agreement reached with a landlord, or simply Jones moving through a space he technically should not be in, that distinction had not been publicly clarified by February 25th. 50 Cent's ownership claim, meanwhile, appeared based on an informal partnership photo with Sam rather than any verified deeds or contracts made public. No official documentation of a sale, transfer of interest, or partnership agreement had surfaced in major coverage by the same date. The claim may be entirely legitimate, but as of now it lives in the world of Instagram posts rather than public record. No lawsuits, formal eviction proceedings, or court documents had surfaced in major hip-hop media outlets as of February 25, 2026. The Monday deadline 50C issued fix every door by Monday came and went without confirmed public follow-up on either side. Whether Jones made repairs, whether 50 Cent enforced anything, whether Sam and Jones reached a new arrangement, none of that entered the public record in the days after the footage dropped. Public and media reactions reflected a genuine divide. One side, the entertainment, high engagement posts celebrating 50 Cent's trolling, fans praising Jones's kung fu response, memes, reaction videos, millions of views. On the other side, a quieter conversation about what this situation represents for independent content creators in New York and why the spotlight fell on Jones specifically. When the podcast has multiple co-hosts, some users questioned why Jones appeared to bear the financial and public responsibility alone when Fabulous, Dave, East, and Mayo are equal co-hosts of the same show operating from the same space. Others noted the broader challenge of running a content operation in a city with among the highest commercial real estate costs in the country. The podcast format that Jones and his co-hosts built in studio, multi-host, production-heavy, requires space, equipment, and overhead that goes beyond what most independent media ventures can absorb when revenue is inconsistent. 50 Cent positions himself in this narrative as a savvy businessman, exposing accountability failures. Jones reframes every setback as a marketing opportunity. Neither framing tells the full story. The full story is a podcast crew built something real in the Bronx. They got into a public dispute with one of the most strategically aggressive figures in the music industry. Their financial vulnerabilities became public ammunition, and the result, at least through February 25, 2026, is a situation that is still legally and operationally unresolved, suspended, somewhere between eviction proceedings that have not reached a courthouse and a social media war that has not reached a conclusion. The Kung Fu Gym persona may keep audiences entertained. IFC News, coming soon, may deliver something worth watching, but the rent does not disappear when the memes stop circulating. What happens to the IFC factory and to the Let's Rap About It podcast depends on decisions made in offices and courtrooms and conversations that no Instagram story can capture. The cameras caught Jim Jones kicking a door. They have not caught what comes next. That wraps up this video. For more interesting videos like this, check out the cards on your screen.